Okay, we are not really live, but we're back for episode 202 of Trek Live.
Yep.
How you doing today, Dan?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to talk some Star Trek. I know this is not ideal for a live show that has their live in their title of their show, but just better for us, or for me, I guess, for live stuff going on. But I'm excited to draft. It's been a while since we've done one of these.
Yeah,
And Voyager is one of my favorite shows, not the favorite. So I'm excited.
yeah, we're going to be doing a fantasy draft for season 3 of Voyager, which is an interesting season. It's usually, I think it's pretty well regarded. There's a lot of really good stuff here, but it's in the pre 7 of 9, pre usually cited as like the peak of the show. Uh, you know, window for Voyager. So these are the seasons that I think are the most fun to do this with. I think the faster you can get out of the like undisputed, absolute upper echelon classics that are kind of easy to pick, the more interesting this gets. The more we get into our own personal tastes and episodes that are harder to separate. And yeah, like you said, it's been a while since we've done this. It's been a while since we've really done anything. Kind of just getting back into
Yeah.
the rhythm of
Yeah.
this, and really excited to be doing that. And I love the fantasy draft format. And yeah,
Before we jump into it, Bill, how's the rewatch going? I know I'm pretty quiet on Twitter, and then the rewatch, I'm just only watching what's current on Star Trek right now. But how's the rewatch going?
it's going. It's just about done. As of the recording of this, I am uh, like 97% of the way through the episodes. I have a little tracker on my spreadsheet that I use that tells me like of the number of episodes I've watched out of the total number, what's the percentage. And I watched the last episode I watched as of the recording of this is Stormy Weather from season 4 of Discovery.
Oh man,
So
dang.
yeah, we're like right. I'm right there. I got a little bit of Prodigy coming up. The back half of season 1A, whatever you want to call the first half of the first season. The back half of Discovery season 4, Picard season 2, and then I think where I'm going to finish this is I'm going to finish season 2 of Picard probably before Strange New Worlds is done, and then I'll break for a week or two or however many it's going to take. Let Strange New Worlds wrap, and then I'll
Complete.
rewatch that as
Mm,
like a kind of a binge over a weekend maybe.
yeah.
And then from what it sounds like, what most people I think are assuming is the new Trek might break a little bit after Strange New Worlds season 1. I don't know that we'll have something like right off the end of
Yeah.
Strange New Worlds like we've kind of had for a while. So it feels really nice to like finish there while the actual new content is also paused. So if I can do that, if I can finish
Good
there,
timing.
I'm like done everything that has been released. So
Yeah.
uh, right around the beginning of July, I should be totally done with Strange New Worlds. But other than that, I should be done this anytime now. So
Dang.
yeah,
That's cool.
I started it in May of 2020, in at least this kind of form. It's kind of shifted a little bit over the years. It's been even longer running than that. I've had this logo on my Twitter handle for quite a while, but
Well, is that a shot at me that I haven't?
no, no,
Just
because it's
kidding.
been it's
I'm
been
just kidding.
3.0 or whatever for a while, or 2.0, whatever it is. Yeah, I've kind of been in this rewatch cycle for a while, so uh, it is a shot across your bow that I'm going to be bugging you for a new one pretty
Okay.
soon. I'll keep this one for a while. I'm not jumping right into the next version right off the gate, right off the end of this one, but pretty soon, I would imagine. Um, so yeah.
Cool.
All right, I think we should get right into it. We're gonna do, like I said, season 3 of Voyager, which is gonna come on the screen right now. If you're watching on YouTube, you'll have sort of a visual aid, but we're hoping to put this out as a podcast as well, where you'll have to follow along with the audio version, and
Yep.
come back on YouTube and check out the audio, the visual with the draft board and all. We're going to go 8 rounds here. There's 26, 25 episodes of the way we draft. Future's End will come as a package deal since it's a completed part 1 and part 2. Within this season, we have a part 2 and a part 1 at the beginning and the end, which will come to singles. Basics part 2 and Scorpion part 1. So it's 25 draftable episodes. We're each going to go 8, so that'll get us to 16. There'll be 9 left over that we'll kind of look at the end with being like a third kind of team of episodes when we're all finished here.
Yeah, the part 1 and part 2s are tough because technically some part 2s are in the 4th season and some are in the 2nd season. So Bill and I had to start it because it just made it easier to break those up, but Future's End is kind of the anomaly because it's just one episode because it's in the season. So that's how that works out, I guess.
Definitely, yeah. So we do need to flip a coin or come up. Yeah, let's flip. I have a coin flipper on my phone here. So why don't you call it and
Tails.
You're gonna call tails. I'm flipping,
Yes.
and it is tails. So
Yes.
you're up.
Yes.
First pick of round 1. Your pick of the litter is gonna be.
So my pick of the litter, my first pick in Voyager season 3 is The Shoot.
Wow, nice.
I'm gonna go with an early episode. I believe it's the 3rd episode of the season. It's I really think a good postmarker for the Tom and Harry kind of friendship. Kind of starts off there, and it really feels real. It's a really dirty episode. You feel really dirty after watching it. I love the set design of that place. It feels really confined and dirty and dingy, and such an interesting type of psychological experiment type of deal. So it's a really good episode.
Yeah, I love The Shoot. It's not like I said, it's very grimy and dirty and dingy. It's not a pleasant experience necessarily, but it's so core to the Tom Paris Harry Kim friendship, and that's a big hallmark of Voyager. It's one of the kind of foundational kind of relationships within that show. It's always been a favorite of mine, and it would have been picked pretty early. I'm surprised you went with it round 1, but it would not have lasted long. I can tell you that because it's definitely up there for me.
Yeah.
My choice is going to be the predictably easy one with Scorpion Part 1. I think that is Voyager's best episode. It's the one that I think I'm the most nostalgic for, too. Just speaking as somebody who grew up watching this show in first run, I remember being in front of the TV, and this would have been like 4th grade, maybe 2nd grade. I can't remember exactly, but I was young, and just the action element of it, there's something more threatening than the Borg really had me. I was really excited by it. There are moments in the episode with the really percussive, loud, bombastic score that really are kind of drilled into my head forever from that first experience. Being really excited to see it. I felt like I was too young. I didn't experience the best of both worlds in first run, which everybody who was around for it always talks about as being like this huge TV moment. For Star Trek fans, especially with the big cliffhanger, and I remember watching Scorpion Part 1 and feeling like this is like the closest I'm going to get to that without having experienced the best of both worlds. So that's mine. I think it's Voyager's best. If this was all 172 episodes of Voyager, my round 1 pick would have been Scorpion Part 1.
Would have been Scorpion, yeah. And if you could, Part 2 as well.
Yeah.
Great pick. I really do love that. It's like a turning point for the show into what it kind of becomes in the later seasons. So yeah, it's a great episode.
Yeah, it really does set the show off on kind of a new path too. Like you mentioned at the beginning, this is the last season of Kess, the last season without Seven, last season without the Borg, kind of really heavily featuring. We get a little bit of them in Unity and then in Scorpion here at the end, but it does sort of foreshadow what the show's going to kind of look and feel like in a lot of ways for the rest of it. So, what are you thinking for round 2?
For round 2, my pick is going to be a later episode. in the season. It's going to be Distant Origin, which is
Ooh,
the
love it.
23rd
Yeah.
episode of the season, I believe. Later in the season, but it's really, really good. I really like. I think my favorite thing about it is just the sci-fi concept. I know for a long time, just as a Trekkie and just as a sci-fi fan, we all remember like why do we all look very similar and have these similar shapes? I really think it's a cool. Uh, I don't know. I don't want to call it a retcon, but it just puts this sci-fi concept um, into why that is and why we look so similar and it feels really different from any episodes this season, even sometimes the whole series, um, because it starts off with and it's kind of based off just an alien species, so it's more focused on them, and it's just um, really really good. I think the and for my money, having such a great sci-fi concept like this, which is such a mark of Voyager, I feel like I had to pick
I love Distant Origin. I think it's a great choice. Might have been my round two pick. I think it's a weird episode. It's kind of like it's two in one sort of. The first half of it is everything you just said with the big science fiction idea of it all. We don't even see Voyager. I think for the first act, we're completely following these two Voth
uniforms, but yeah,
scientists.
yeah,
Yeah, we see the uniforms on like a graphic because they find the body of a dead crewman from Basics. They're on that planet,
yeah,
and they trace that there's a common ancestry there, and are trying to solve the mystery. So the first half of the episode, we're kind of following that along and unpacking that mystery of is this true? Are they really what they look like? Are they like dinosaurs? And Janeway's trying to solve all that. And then the second half of the episode turns into like a trial. It's a courtroom drama with
yeah,
the scientists being kind of raked over the coals for daring to push back against doctrine. It's almost like the whole Galileo.
yeah. It's commentary on that. Yeah,
Yeah, it's very much a
yeah,
faith in science and the rigidity of that and
yeah,
inflexibility of feeling threatened by science. Um, and it's awesome. I think the way David Livingston shoots the courtroom stuff with like really Dutch angles and dark, low angles makes Chakotay feel like he is in a completely alien, scary, never been here and never been anywhere like this before. It really feels
yeah,
otherworldly. I think they really
yeah.
do a good job of illustrating that with the camera, and it's a classic. I think it's one of Voyager's best. So I'm gonna go. I think I'm gonna go with. Yeah, I'll go with Future's End. I'll take the two, the full two-parter there. This one's kind of grown on me over the years. I feel like it is. It's always been a lot of fun. But to be honest, over the last several years, I think I've grown to appreciate it more as like a classic. I think I always kind of viewed it as lightweight and kind of silly in my earlier years, but it's really grown on me. I think the Sarah Silverman character, Rain Robinson, and the way she relates to Tom Paris, and the way that they use the whole cast. Uh, in different kind of facets over the course of the two parts. I think Tuvok and Tom Paris have a great dynamic on Earth. You get the introduction of the mobile emitter for the Doctor. If you look at it through the lens of Henry Starling is like this tech billionaire guy who's not good. I think that's become a lot
Elon
easier
Musk,
to
yeah,
name your guy, whoever.
yeah.
I think they had Steve Jobs
Tim
in mind.
Cook or yeah, Steve
Yeah,
Jobs,
at the
yeah,
time,
whatever.
it was sort of
Yeah,
a Bill Gates, Steve Jobs kind of
yeah. Gates,
amalgam. But you kind of fill in the blank now. They're everywhere
yeah,
and not super popular in all corners, so it's kind of an easy thing to root against. But yeah, it's really fun. It's a good time. I think it's interesting now after having watched season 2 of Picard, which the way I kind of
some a lot
reason
of similarities.
a lot of similarities. It's like
Yeah,
season 2 of Picard is like what if Future's End took a 10 episode like that kind of a deal.
yeah,
It's a
yeah,
trip back in time, but it's not solved in an hour or two. It's a longer running problem, and bigger mystery and how do we get out of here. And, so I think it's grown on me a lot over the years, and I'd pretty comfortably put it up there in the upper echelon of Voyager episodes, and I think it's pretty comfortably in my top 100 right now, with top 100 overall.
I think it's unjustly compared to Voyage Home.
Yeah,
I
that
think at
happens
the time. I just think that there's a lot of stuff that really is interesting. Obviously, the timeline and all that stuff is always a fun kind of sci-fi concept. But like you said, I think it does a lot for the Doctor and a few of these characters and it gives the cast just everyone has something to do. And
Looks like they're
yeah, I
having
think
fun.
it's a solid episode. I just think it's unjustly compared to Voyage Home at times.
I definitely think that is what kind of held me back. I've always, like I said, it's always been very solidly in the positive column for me.
Yeah.
But I think I kept it out of that upper echelon, out of some sort of comparison to Star Trek 4, and things like City on the Edge of Forever. It always just felt like it was a little lighter weight than those other like big time travel swings. But it's there's something to be said for that. Like, yeah, it's not as like completely. I don't know. Yeah, I mean the stakes are high. I don't know. I don't know why I was resistant to it over the years, but I'm on board now completely with having it way up there. Round 3. What do you got?
Round 3. I'm gonna go with Macrocosm.
Ooh.
I'm a big Die Hard fan, obviously, and this to me just feels like Die Hard in space with Janeway. Running around the deck is kind of an action hero, running around the decks and trying to solve mystery and fight this alien. That's on the ship that's slowly taking over the ship. I just always really loved this episode. I've always loved Janeway when she gets to tackle an action hero role, an action hero type of episode, where she gets to get her hands dirty and feels really old school when with just one crew or two crewmen against the whole kind of problem of the week. I really do like that type of setup as well. Yeah, going Macrocosm.
This is another one that's really grown on me over the years. I love the structure of it, the way that they kind of slowly reveal the flashbacks of I think the episode's done a really good service by placing us in the shuttle with Janeway and discovering the ship and the dire circumstances that it finds itself in through Janeway's eyes. Like, we don't have all the answers. Our perspective isn't on the ship when the episode starts. We're in the same boat as Janeway, kind of getting on there and like, what the heck happened here, and what could have kind of done the crew in to this extent. Mm-hmm. And we're learning about it through the same way she is. I think they do a really nice job of making that feel unexpected and different, because certainly there's a long lineage of some sort of virus kind of striking the crew. Strange New Worlds literally just did one like 2 weeks ago. They're still doing it. These are not. There's a whole run of these episodes that you can do a whole marathon of, and I think the structure is one of the ways that this one finds a real fresh voice. But yeah, the Janeway Die Hard kind of stuff is really great. I think Kate Mulgrew does a really nice job with the action element of it. It's a rock solid episode for sure. For my round 3, I'm gonna go with a heavy one and go with Real Life, which is another kind of similar to The Shoot.
Great pick.
It's not dirty the way The Shoot is, but it's emotionally tiring the way that The Shoot is. It's got maybe one of the heavier endings I think in Star Trek's history.
Easily,
yeah, it's really tough to watch. But again, I think with the structure and the tonal shifts that this episode has to deal with, the way that it sort of progresses. Early on, the Doctor's holodeck program with the family is kind of a 1950s sitcom. Everything's just honky-dory. Everybody gets along. It's super cheesy. And it turns into a kind of 90s, melodrama by the end of it. And it's it's really well done. I think they handle those shifts with a lot of ease, and most importantly to me, I think I'm always really taken by the idea that the thing that has sort of kept the Doctor separate from the crew is this: he doesn't have the same sense of loss that everybody around him is dealing with. And there's a great scene towards the back end of this episode when Tom Paris kind of urges the Doctor to kind of follow through with this program and deal with the loss that's coming his way, because it'll probably make him feel closer to the crew. It'll give him a key into, relating to everyone around him. And it's brutal, and it's a hard thing to ask somebody to go do, to push through that kind of pain. But I think the way that Robert Picardo plays that last scene with the loss of his child kind of sells that idea that he gets it. Like, he feels a little closer to the crew and feels more a part of the family because of that experience. And I love that. I think that's an important moment for that character.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I love that episode. It's definitely not an easy watch, as Bill said, but it goes to some really dark and tough places, which Star Trek does from time to time. So it feels right at home.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Round 4.
Round 4. I'm gonna quickly jump back to kind of the end of the season. I'm gonna go worst case scenario. One of those few episodes that I think kind of depicts and kind of explores the early distrust of the two crews merging together, which I really love. I like the mystery of who is the author of this type of holodeck program, and what ensues after that and all that. But yeah, I think that my favorite thing about the episode is it explores a little bit of the distrust the two crews, and especially, spoiler, Tuvok had.
Yeah.
Which is interesting because he infiltrated the Maquis, so I just find that kind of interesting, where he's so steadfast in his logic, but I guess he talks about it in the episodes. It's I don't know. It's good. It's really good. Is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, another thing that kind of strikes me here, we don't get a lot of that Tom Paris Tuvok pairing, but in season 3 there is a little bit of it here. With they're paired together for a big chunk of Future's End, and then in worst case scenario they're paired together again. And I kind of wish there was more of that. I think those two people are so polar opposites with kind of what drives them. It's sort of the
emotional
classic
response versus more logic and level-headedness. Yeah.
Tom is so driven by wearing his feelings on his sleeve, and is kind of impulsive, and Tuvok obviously is the opposite. It's sort of maybe the closest thing that Voyager could have gotten to the Spock McCoy kind of dynamic. Very different, but it's kind of treading on that same water. And season 3, you get a little bit of it, and I think that really works well in worst case scenario. I do think the kind of return of, let's not forget that this is two different crews that have two different motivations, and very different backgrounds are here together, and it's not always going to be sunshine and rainbows. I think they do a nice job of returning to that in a cool way that's not overly contrived.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not like this random event sparks the conflict again. It's kind of, I think it's done in a pretty convincing way that allows us to explore those things without compromising the integrity of the show and what the show wants to be. And it's a lot of fun. I think Seska's really dangerous in it, and she feels like she's always 1-2 steps ahead of everybody, Paris and Tuvok, but also even like Janeway and company, trying to like rewrite the hologram ahead of the Seska development. She feels dangerous and very competent, and it's a good one. It's a really good episode. one of the better holodeck episodes, actually. I think if you wanted to do like a holodeck episode
Yeah.
across all these shows, worst case scenario is up there.
Because yes, she takes those safety parameters off, so it almost doesn't feel like holodeck. Really, it feels real,
dangerous.
But, Yep.
So for my round 4,
I
am gonna go kind of loading up on this back end of the season. I'm gonna go with before and after, which I really like. I think it's Kess's best moment on the show. Really cool science fiction idea with the sort of reverse aging. I think they do a nice job of exploring kind of the hallmark quality of Kess's character, which is the short lifespan, which I think sometimes doesn't get satisfyingly explored over the course of her 3 seasons on the show. But this one deals with it head on, and they're concerned about it, and there's this sense of urgency about it, and a desire to try to use a cheat code to extend her life. There's some really cool foreshadowing toward the year of hell in here, through the sort of future flashes that we get through Kess's jumps forward. It's an interesting, very strange, classic, mind-bendy, high-concept science fiction idea. But I think Jennifer Lean's really strong in it, and it's nice to me that Kess gets... This is kind of her swan song, I think. She's got a few episodes to go, but this is her last real spotlight, and I think it's kind of a home run. It's a really good episode that provides a lot of meat to chew on for her best qualities, the things that are distinctive and unique about her character. And it's good.
Yeah, I was hoping this would slide to another round, but I waited too long. I really do. I really enjoyed this episode. It's frustrating because you realize she had such a just kind of cool background, sci-fi background, and it felt like, why couldn't we do more of this all along? And maybe she would have stayed around, but because I think the character's credit, she does have a cool sci-fi backstory that they don't really utilize until this episode, where it's just I don't know, really cool. I think it challenges our perspective because we have such a longer lifespan than she does, and to some other animals and species on this planet. So I think it challenges how we view our lives and our perspective on things. So I really do like this episode, but cool sci-fi concept, true Voyager fashion, but should have picked it earlier.
It's the name of the game here. Fantasy Draft. What do you got for round 5?
For my round 5 pick, I am going to go with a mid-season pick. I'm gonna go with Fair Trade.
Ooh, okay.
It's I think it's an episode that has definitely grown on me as well. I think it does a lot of good stuff with the Neelix character and where he goes from here, and I don't know. It's just I think we had an episode on it.
Yeah, we did an undervalued Trex episode on Fair Trade and Alter Ego. We did like a double header, kind of two episodes back to back that don't get a lot of love. That I know I was a fan of, but
and I like that it it leans on the idea of the premise of the show, where they're trying to get back, and trying to find their way back, and to this point, Neelix was always the guide, and he always had the answers. And I think there's some good stuff with how he interacts with the crew, and some good stuff with that. So yeah, I think that's the episode I'm thinking of. So yeah,
No,
it's good.
you nailed it. I think just like before and after, which I just picked, the fact that deals with uh, like fundamental core principles of the Kess character. Fair trade does the same thing for Neelix. Like, it's not just a story about Neelix. It's taking all of the building blocks of going back to Caretaker. Why he's there? Why is he on the ship? What's his purpose? What's his kind of mission statement as a character, and put that into conflict. And that we're kind of reaching the natural end of his knowledge base, and he's starting to feel like his usefulness on the ship is going to start, wearing out. This is a guy who clearly has kind of bounced around in life, doesn't stay in one place for too long, never really had a home after everything that happened on his home world. He's a junk trader. He's a guy who's had all these different experiences. So I think his body clock is kind of starting to click that, my time here is running short. I'm going to have to move on soon. And he's panicking about that because he feels comfortable and he likes the crew and he likes the ship, and I think he feels at home here and doesn't want that to happen again, and it drives him to making some bad decisions. And I like the way that I've always liked this episode for its kind of classic exploration of the phenomenon of like one bad decision kind of breeding
leading to another, and then another. Yeah.
You've woven this spider web of crap that you can't dig your way out of. And it happens in life. People do this. This is how people get themselves into hot water a lot of the time, in all kinds of facets. And I think it does a nice job of, putting that on screen in 45 minutes. And Ethan Phillips is great. I think this is a good episode, and I think it's underrated. I'm kind of torn here. I have two that kind of stand out to me as ones that I am tempted to pick, and I'm not sure that you would pick either one of them, so I feel like I'm pretty safe, if I'm being honest. I'm gonna go with Remember first. That's B'Elanna Torres. It's sort of a Holocaust drama. It's another one that's really heavy. I'm glad I didn't pick it right off the heels of Real Life and have two back to back that are like kind of punishingly difficult. But yeah, I think it's a really nice kind of historical, exploration of the Holocaust is the easiest one to kind of point to, but mass genocide and I think it's an interesting use of B'Elanna as well. Like, she's kind of an unexpected character to kind of deal with these things, because she is, it's sort of through like telepathic means that she's able to access these memories, and she's not a telepath, so she's not like a natural choice. But I think her volatility and her character traits, I think, are a nice counterbalance to the sort of softer tones, especially early on in this episode, where she's having these. I think they do a nice job of kind of slow rolling what the episode's really talking about. Like, at the beginning of it, she's having these dreams that are almost just kind of like erotic, kind of fantasy kinds of dreams, and she's having this relationship, this kind of forbidden Romeo and Juliet kind of relationship with a guy, and there's not a lot of context around like why, at least early on, why this is so not okay, and why it has to be hidden, and the slow reveal of the sort of the genocide base of everything going on is I think really well done. And yeah, I've always really liked this episode. It's heavy, it's quiet, there's no action in it, there's no explosions, there's no space battles. It's kind of just a straight drama. But I think the way that it twists and turns into what it ultimately becomes is really well done. I like episodes, I like movies that can pull off making you think you're watching one thing, and then they take a hard right, and you realize, oh, this is not what I thought it was. And I think that's a good example of an episode that does that.
Yeah, it's don't particularly remember this episode.
Good,
But
awesome. That's good. That's good.
It's
something good to discover next time around.
yeah, I think I don't, at least from the picks that we've made, I don't know if there's been a lot of Major Torres episodes, and it's nice to see that she gets.
That's a good one. I think she's one of her stronger performances. I think, and she's got a lot of them. Roxanne Dawson. She's excellent as B'Elanna throughout the show, but this is a good one, and it's outside the box from I think the usual fare for
her. Let's see. Definitely getting a little bit tougher to
round 6. 3 more.
round 6. I'm gonna go. Make sure that this is the episode that I'm thinking of. I'm gonna go with Rise.
Okay.
I like the pairing of anytime we get Neelix and pretty much anyone who's kind of the complete opposite, where which is Tuvok. I like anytime Voyager gets to go and save the day. This is the one with the elevator thing, right? Yeah, I really like that. I feel like Neelix just is, I think at this point, really eager to do things and help out, and kind of anytime he can go on an away mission, I think he's eager to. I really do like the pairing of Tuvok with this episode. So yeah, I'm picking Rise.
It's not one of my favorites, but I love that you're picking it. A lot of people are fond of this. I think it's a guilty pleasure, or maybe not so guilty for a lot of people too. There's some kind of throwback, potentially silly like science fiction stuff, like kind of retro sort of, with at least the way it's executed. I think.
Yeah.
But the real meat of the episode is for sure the Tuvok Neelix dynamic, and this is one that I remember when I watched, as I've mentioned a couple times on the show over the last 2 years, I guess now, is the Delta Flyers. They had a really nice conversation. I can't remember if it was with both of them. I know Ethan Phillips talked about it. I think Tim Russ did too. The way they talked about playing those scenes with the two of them in conflict really made me want to like go back and watch it again and find the appreciation that like those two actors had for it. They really liked being together and playing that conflict. So yeah, I'm eager to watch Rise again. I've seen it many times over the years, and I've never been a huge fan, but it's an interesting one, and I don't dread watching it. I do look forward to it every time, and I always go into it hoping to like love it more than I do. I'm glad you picked it. I think it's a fun one. I'm gonna go back to back on B'Elanna kinds of stories, and I'm gonna go with Blood Fever. I like Blood Fever. I think I like Vorik. I think he's a cool recurring character. I like. This is the first time since Amok Time that you deal with Ponfar and the sort of nitty gritty Vulcan stuff, and I think they have a lot of fun with putting a new spin on some of that stuff. You know, you have to go along with the sort of conceit of the sort of contagious nature of it that inflicts B'Elanna. I think that's sort of that's the hard sell that I think people are either on board for or not. But you know, as somebody who is completely there and on board for the Tom Paris B'Elanna stuff, it does allow that to progress. It sets that kind of more forward in a way that is in the open for those two characters. I think up until this point, there's some hints in episodes preceding Blood Fever, but it's very sort of beneath the surface. It's very subtle. Blood Fever kind of drives that into the forefront, and it forces those characters to kind of start dealing with it. And I think they do a good job. There's scenes in the caves that are really memorable. I remember watching as a kid and being like, "Wow, like this is kind of spicy." In the caves with like the flashlight lighting, like that's pretty. I think that's kind of well done. I think it's tense and weird, and it's obviously memorable.
Yeah.
So, is it a little silly at times? Sure. There's some stuff you gotta go along with to get there, but it's I always have a fun time with it, and it has a great ending with the kind of unexpected revealed Borg. There's like a dead Borg body in the brush that they find that kind of foreshadows that they're kind of approaching that part of the Delta Quadrant where they're kind of
I just think that there's a lot of we don't understand the power of the Vulcan mind, and because remember, like Sarek will come on the Enterprise D and cry,
true.
and then emit this immense.
Yes.
I don't know if that's
great call.
If we can completely make us understand this kind of setup in this episode, but I think we can get there with, we don't really know the true power of the Vulcan mind and how it can affect other species and people in the crew. So
you're right.
I am liking Blood Fever more and more, trying to just like put the the silliness of some of the stuff in this episode to bed and just accept it. So yeah, pun intended. No, just kidding. For my next pick, I'm not sure, around seven.
Round 7.
Yeah,
2 more.
I'm gonna go with Flashback. I know most shows have a episode where they try to shoehorn a old cast member in. This one, I like the exploration of some of Tuvok's past and some of the insecurities and things that he deals with, and kind of explores some of his backstory and stuff. I really like that. I think there's a few episodes sprinkled out throughout the show that we get. Even the last one that we realize the strong relationship Janeway has with Tuvok, and I think this is one of those episodes where you realize that they do have a very strong relationship, and because I think sometimes Tuvok can be distant and really sometimes stale at times with his character, but I think this adds some good backstory that adds some color and weight to the Janeway Tuvok relationship that we get explored in even the last episodes of the show. So going Flashback.
Yeah, Flashback's good. I think like you said, the backstory for Tuvok, the sort of nostalgic look back at the original series. I think there's some nice scenes with Janeway talking about like the old days with Kirk and the old Enterprise, and the way it was a little bit more cowboy and off into the frontier.
Cavalier,
difference between like, life in Starfleet in the 23rd and the 21st centuries. I think that's nice. It's always been one, even back in the day, that I always wanted to like more than I do. I wanted it to be better than it was.
Yeah, on paper it sounds fantastic, but some of the execution is
And I remember at the time, this is the 30th, the 30th anniversary of Star Trek. This is 1996 that this season came out. So, Deep Space Nine and Voyager both did a 30th anniversary episode harkening back to the original series.
Remind me, what was their episode?
Right, and they aired pretty close together, and that was not helpful to Flashback. I don't think.
Having trouble, it was
Trials and Tribulations is so perfect, and so perfect. It's so well done in every way, and it's such a loving look back at TOS, I think Flashback, unfortunately, at the time, contemporaneously when the episodes were airing, fell prey to like people holding both episodes up and being like, "Haha, which one?"
Yeah.
Like
Yeah. Doesn't
that.
compare, but
No, and I think time has been kinder to that. People coming to Star Trek later and not living through that context can look at those two episodes as two separate entities and don't view
yeah,
them through
true.
that
Yeah.
prism. That can help at least let Flashback stand on its own. But as somebody who lived through that, it still kind of weighs on me. Like my brain does go there when I think of Flashback. But I do enjoy it. There's some great stuff with Kang being on the bridge of the Klingon ship that the Excelsior's dealing with in the Nebula.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good. It's certainly not. It's not a miss. I think it's solid, and it does do some cool things for Tuvok's backstory. And I love the fact that he was in Starfleet and left. Like he wasn't sure that was the right path for him. Like he's had kind of two careers in Starfleet: the early, less comfortable time on the Excelsior and in that era, and then kind of has come back to it. So there's some interesting texture that you get with Tuvok there for sure.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Yeah. This will be my round 7 pick. Right? 4, 5, 6. Yeah, 7. So I'm gonna go with Unity, which is a kind of their first Borg episode. That's kind of a pseudo Borg episode. They don't really deal with the collective. They run into this colony of disconnected. It's kind of the XBs before Picard did the XBs.
Or yeah.
They're disconnected drones who have kind of succeeded with forming their own kind of version of the Borg. They're still connected. Like they're still dealing with being a collective. They're not completely removed from their Borg technology and their connectivity, but they're removed from the collective at large, and they've kind of formed this society of their own that Chakotay runs into, and it's sort of this first warning sign that Voyager's about to butt up against this thing that they know is out there and is going to be a major problem. But I think it does some cool things with Chakotay's character. He has this kind of pseudo-romantic connection with this female leader of this colony, and it's sort of they play it like this he's being kind of lured in by something kind of evil and uncomfortable. I think they do some nice things with portraying that as sort of this dangerous romance he's kind of getting lured into. I don't think it's a great episode, but I think it's a good one. I don't think it's completely successful. It always kind of leaves me wishing it was more than it is, but it is. I think when I really think about it, it's solid on its own framework. I remember at the time when it aired, it felt. I remember them promoting it like it's the Borg. It's a Borg episode, and then it's so not like what you expect the Borg episode to be when you're 10 and coming off the heels of the Next Generation and stuff. So I think the way that they subvert those expectations kind of works in hindsight, and getting away from that initial experience with it being a little disappointed and let down. But I think it's solid. I think it's a good episode, not a great episode, and I'm kind of happy to have it at this point. It feels right around this point of the tail end of 8 rounds.
Yes. Do I have anything to say about? I think any type of Borg episode, I think is now our perspectives are going to change on them because of what Picard is doing. But this was this episode already was changing our perspective. Because right at this point we only have stuff that we have in the Next Generation.
Yeah.
So it's I think this is a little bit we're obviously a little bit cautious, but it's hard. This is early. even early season 3, we're already changing our perspective on the Borg,
Yeah.
right? Because in the Next Generation, they feel so dangerous and such a menace that once we get into some of the Borg stuff, it gets our perspective changes, and even after Scorpion and things like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, great pick.
Last one.
Man, this is tough. I there's two that I could go with. I'm gonna keep the little batch together. I'm gonna go Alter Ego. It's Bill talked about it. I think we did an episode on it as well.
Yeah.
But yeah, this little run here has got some underrated episodes. But Alter Ego, I just think it tackles some interesting stuff with relationships and just being out in space for so long. I think we're relationship beings. We have to have some types of interactions, and it just gets into some exploration of that. And I just think it's another holodeck episode.
Yeah.
But it just explores some, which I think is interesting, because I think Voyager's always felt so disconnected and such a been placed in a tough spot that takes a toll on the crew, and then this episode kind of goes into some of those territories with that. So yeah, Bill, thoughts on Alter Ego?
I really like Alter Ego. We did do the Undervalued episode we did a few months back was Fair Trade and Alter Ego as back to backs. Really under discussed. I think underappreciated episodes. Yeah, that's another one. I think there was another episode we talked about. Distant Origin, I mentioned, kind of being like an episode that's almost split in half with two kinds of things. And Alter Ego kind of does the same thing. First half of the episode is this sort of like Harry Kim's falling in love with a hologram. That's like which you would imagine is something that would happen, especially on a ship like Voyager, a small crew. You're out there. It's the only kind of outside the box social opportunity you have outside of the crewmen and women that you're living with. And the back half of the episode is this mystery about what the heck's going on with this holodeck character that Harry Kim's fallen in love with now is kind of into Tuvok, and it turns out it's an alien who's also lonely on a space station living by themselves and is essentially catfishing, like using a holodeck to manifest herself into and live this like the second life, and have that connection that she so deeply needs. But it's really an episode about loneliness and that, like you said, that desperation for a connection of some sort, and that Harry Kim and her both have it. And even Tuvok kind of has it in his own way. Tuvok's a little open to the at least the friendship aspect, I think, of connecting with this holodeck program at the beginning before it starts to get creepy. But I think it explores all three of them having that need for a deeper connection with somebody, and they all kind of manifest in their own ways, but they're all problematic. And I think in the day and age that we find ourselves in now with the internet and the pitfalls and things that offers and opens up doors toward, it's even more relevant now than it was in 96, 97 when it aired. The internet plus, COVID and quarantines and less social interactions than before is kind of the perfect soup for an episode like Alter Ego to kind of have a new life as something to watch again and think about with today's perspective.
And I think Voyager has always pushed the boundary and explored so much of what it means to with the holodeck. Just even with stories on the holodeck, but also with the Doctor, even with the Captain. Delete the wife types of
Hmm.
situations. I think it just explores um, the change the change that and effect that a holodeck and hologram can affect a crew, especially on such a long deep space
Yeah,
mission. So I like it.
yeah. People are going to find it, however they're going to find it. Like people are going to reach a breaking point where they're going to want to seek out
Yeah,
that connection if they're not getting it. And the holodeck on Voyager does periodically get highlighted
because
that way.
they're so isolated
Yeah,
from
right.
yeah
They don't
yeah
have just traditional leave time, and they can go do something else or transfer or do some other job,
yeah
or have shore leave traditionally, the way that like the Enterprise D can or Deep Space Nine can. It's just not the same situation. The vast majority of the time they're living with the same 150 people, and yeah, that's going to create tension.
yeah.
um, so yeah, I really like Alter Ego. I think it's a good pick. um, I'm going to go with, for my last one, Displaced, which,
That was the other one that I thinking about.
yeah, I like this one. It's not the deepest, not the most profound. It doesn't have a huge, big social message, or a big profound thing to say necessarily, but it's really well done. When I think of this episode, my brain kind of goes to the very end of the first chunk of the episode when they're being picked off the ship and Chakotay's like
Yeah,
the last man standing, and kind of race against time to sabotage the ship and make it as difficult on these aliens as possible. And he's a
yeah,
bad A in that. Like, he's
yeah,
really cool.
yeah.
He's going hard, on them, and I think that's one of Chakotay's more heroic, like, cooler moments on the show. Um, his Maquis definitely coming out. Like,
Coming up. Yeah.
he's very comfortable and competent in that kind of a job. Um,
Hmm.
but really cool idea with the kind of alien prison that they replicate, very different environments, and try to make their captives feel home, and try to get them to submit to life's not so bad here. Uh,
Like the Nexus a little bit.
yeah, they try to yeah, get people to just kind of resign themselves to, oh, it could be worse. We're here.
Yeah.
Um, but the slow burn toward Voyager realizing what's happening is really well done too. Like, at first it's this innocent, like, the heck is going on, like being replaced, and it's some kind of anomaly or something, and they're slowly piecing together that it's not an innocent accident kind of a thing. Is well done. Some good B'Elanna Tom Paris stuff too with this. This is, again, there's some big stuff when they're imprisoned, and their breakout effort that kind of pushes them closer together and forces them to deal with their feelings. And one step closer to Day of Honor in season 4. So yeah, I think it's good.
Yeah, really good episode for my money. This is probably my next pick. I really loved the Chakotay part of it, and then also just the sci-fi concept part of it. I
Yeah.
think those two really make this definitely a watchable episode.
All right, so that's going to do it for our 8-round portion of it. Like, we've got our 8 episodes,
Yeah.
which we'll kind of recap here in a second. There's 9 left, so I'm going to read them because you don't have the benefit of the draft board right in front of you. And if you can, if one stands out to you, it's kind of like maybe the next one you would pick. We got Basics Part 2, The Swarm, False Prophets, Sacred Ground, Warlord, The Hue and the Gray, Coda, Darkling, and Favorite Son, our undrafted batch.
Yeah.
Is there an episode in that mix that would be like an easy go-to? You would definitely pick that, or not the other?
Yeah, maybe 2. I might go Basics Part 2.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed the first one, maybe a little bit better
Yeah.
first part, but I do like Basics. Maybe the Swarm. I think, isn't Paris injured in that one too?
He gets, him and B'Elanna get hit by an alien. They're in a shuttle and they get attacked.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. So those ones, those two probably are my next few picks. I probably pick Basics first, um, over the Swarm. But yeah, I mean, just to recap overall, I think this episode has definitely some clear cuts, like definitely classics. When you think of Voyager, you think of the Shoot or Scorpion. Obviously, you got some classics here, but you also got some really undervalued episodes that I think really. I think my toughest pick that I didn't get that you got was probably Before and After.
mm,
I really did like that stuff with Cass. Um, but again, there's some really I think it's really solid episodes that are just pretty undervalued. Remember is a good pick as well. Um, and then Fair Trade and Alter Ego are also I think underrated as well. So I think really good season to do a draft like this because it really makes you think about the episodes, but also has some classics. So
yeah, as I've said a million times as we've done these, my favorite seasons to do this for seasons like this, where you have some classics, but you can quickly kind of get into a portion of episodes that are kind of undervalued, underappreciated, aren't always at the top of lists, and I think that really is what I think you learn a little something about our personal tastes by seeing you pick things like Fair Trade and
right,
Rise and yeah, I mean that and
yeah,
Flashback, like your willingness to go there. Where some of those episodes I might not go with. I went with some stuff. I picked Blood Fever. If I had to bet, you probably weren't going to pick Blood Fever. You probably weren't going to pick Remember. You know, so there were. That's where it gets interesting. I think where you can really get a sense of and maybe hopefully viewers out there, people who are listening, can kind of put themselves in the shoes of somebody doing this, and can think about where would you pick, especially once you get into that portion of it. So I love this. I think this is a cool format where you can kind of do anything. We've tended to go with seasons, but we've done things like two parters. We've done the movies.
yes,
We've done
great backlog if
yeah,
you're wanting more of
there's a whole
this.
playlist on the YouTube channel of nothing but our fantasy drafts, including some really good guests. We did a huge jumbo one with season 4 episodes before Discovery premiered its 4th season, so it was like a
Yeah,
huge chunk of TNG, DS9, Voyager, and Enterprise episodes with Jen and Caleb were there with us. Jim from Trek Ranks did a TOS one with us. Rob did a Voyager one with us. We've had some good guests, some good ones for sure.
yeah.
I think we've done all the shows, almost. Maybe not some of the new ones, but certainly all the completed series we've touched on at least. Yep.
Cool.
So yeah, I think that'll about do it for us. Thank you for watching. Hopefully, we'll be back to doing some live stuff eventually. Maybe later this summer. Maybe we'll
Yeah,
see.
for next month. Yeah,
Yeah, but for now, we're gonna do a few more of these pre-recorded versions to kind of bridge the gap until life settles down a little bit. I can't. Obviously, Dan, you spoke to it at the beginning. You got some big life stuff going on with the arrival of your daughter Mabel,
yep.
and some other stuff too. And this is a really good way for us to, get our Star Trek conversations out there a little bit without. Having to stretch too thin to make a live stream happen. But they will be back. We will be back live eventually here down the road, and we look forward to that.
You guys know the drill. The discussion doesn't have to stop here. Twitter, and our Discord server are the two best places to keep the discussion going. Let us know what your picks are. Let us know what you would pick next after all these picks. What would your round 9 be? And I want to thank everybody for watching. Thank you to the people who are watching it on the YouTube and the podcast feed. Again, the podcast feed is great, very convenient, but also I think you get the best kind of experience when you get to see the draft board. So, but yeah, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Thanks, everybody. Take care.